I came home, found my mother-in-law in my bedroom. She said, "This is my house now." I called a locksmith, changed everything. My wife picked her side and regretted it. I'm 34 male, a logistics manager, which is a fancy way of saying I spend my life making sure things move from point A to point B in an orderly fashion. I like systems. I like predictability. It's why I bought my house 7 years ago, a full 3 years before I met my wife Brenda too. It was my anchor, my one non-negotiable piece of order in a chaotic world. My name is on the deed. My money paid the down payment. My name is on the mortgage. This is a critical detail. Brenda's mother, Shirley, 62, has always been the antithesis of order. She's a force of nature, but not a pleasant one. More like a hurricane you're forced to board up the windows for every few months. For the 4 years Brenda and I were married, I saw the pattern. Shirley manufactured crisis. There was the time she accidentally double-booked a vacation and needed me to pay for a last-minute flight. The time she co-signed on a car for a friend, who defaulted, and Brenda drained our savings to stop her from being sued. Each time I tried to establish a boundary, and each time Brenda, her face etched with anxiety, would plead with me. "She'll fall apart if we don't help, Jonathan. It's just this once." It was never just once. 2 months ago, Shirley's landlord decided to sell her apartment. She had 60 days to move. Immediately, the campaign began. "I have nowhere to go." She'd weep to Brenda over the phone. "My own daughter is going to let me be homeless." I knew what was coming. A week later, Brenda sat me down. "We need to let her stay with us just for a little while." I took a deep breath. This was it. The line in the sand. "No, Brenda," I said as gently but as firmly as I could. "We are not doing that. Your mother is a guest for an afternoon, not a roommate. It would destroy our marriage, and you know it." I then laid out a counteroffer. I would personally pay the deposit and first month's rent on a new apartment for her. I would even hire movers. It was a generous offer, a final offer. Brenda cried, but she eventually nodded. She said she understood. She said she would tell her mother. For the next few weeks, things were quiet. I thought the problem was solved. I was a fool. Last week, I had a mandatory 3-day work trip. I kissed Brenda goodbye on Tuesday morning. I finished my work ahead of schedule and, feeling a surge of relief, caught an earlier flight home on Thursday. I landed around noon, planning to surprise Brenda with lunch at her favorite spot. The moment I opened my front door, I knew the air was thick with a foreign floral perfume. She wore a stack of battered U-Haul boxes scrolled with Shirley's kitchen stood sentinel in my hallway. My stomach turned to ice. I walked into the living room. Her gaudy Overstead armchair was crammed next to my sofa. And on my bookshelf, where I kept my collection of vintage sci-fi paperbacks, sat her army of porcelain dolls, their dead glass eyes judging me. My heart was a cold, heavy drum against my ribs. As I went upstairs, the door to our bedroom, my bedroom, was wide open. Inside, 2 movers were struggling with a monstrously ornate headboard, and directing them with the imperious wave of a hand was Shirley. My bed, the one Brenda and I shared, was disassembled and propped against the far wall like an afterthought. She saw me, and a slow, triumphant smile spread across her face. It was the smile of someone who had just checkmated an opponent who didn't even know they were playing a game. "Jonathan, you're home early," she said. Her tone was benign, but her eyes were glinting. "Surely," I said, my voice dangerously low. "What is this? Where is Brenda?" "Picking up lunch for us," she said, turning back to the movers. "She won't be long. Now, boys, let's get this centered. It needs to be the focal point of the room." The movers exchanged an uncomfortable glance. I stepped fully into the room. "Stop," I said to them. They froze. I turned to Shirley. "What are you doing in my bedroom?" She let out a theatrical sigh, the kind designed to paint me as an unhinged brute. "Jonathan, please don't make a scene. We can discuss this when Brenda is here." She agreed this was for the best. The best. The best was the apartment I offered to rent for you. This is a home invasion. That's when she dropped the pretense. She stepped closer, her voice a low hiss. "Let me be clear. My daughter lives here, which makes this a family home. I am the matriarch. For her sake, I am taking my rightful place. This is my house now. You'll learn to live with it. This is my house now. The words hung in the air. The movers looked at their feet, at the ceiling, anywhere but at us. One of them cleared his throat. Sir, ma'am. I think we're going to take a smoke break. Just let us know when you've got this sorted." They practically fled from the room. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I finally saw the full picture. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was the endgame of Shirley's years-long campaign, and my wife had been her willing accomplice. I turned without. Another word, walked down the stairs and out my front door. I sat in my car, the engine off, and watched the movers leaning against their trucks smoking. I pulled out my phone. First call, a 24-hour locksmith. I scheduled a complete recce of all exterior doors for 3 p.m. Second call, my brother, the paralegal. He listened, whistled low and said, "Don't even breathe without talking to a divorce attorney. I'll send you a name." Third, a text to Brenda. "I'm home. Saw the new decorating. Your mother just informed me this is her house now." Her reply was instantaneous. "Jonathan, wait, don't do anything. I can't explain. Mom's just being dramatic. You know how she is. I'm almost home. We can talk this out. You know how she is. The forward excuse for a lifetime of chaos." I waited. When her car pulled up, she got out with takeout bags, a forced, placating smile on her face. It vanished when she saw me sitting in my car. She tapped on the glass. I rolled down the window. "What are you doing out here?" "Let's go inside. We can't talk on the street." "Is your mother moving her things out of my house?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. Her face crumpled. What was I supposed to do? She cried for days. She said she'd rather die than live in some sterile apartment by herself. She promised it would just be for a few months, just until she gets back on her feet. She needs the master bedroom because of her bad back. It was a compromise, Jonathan. A compromise you made with my life and my property without my consent. I'm going to a hotel. A locksmith is coming at 3 p.m. You and your mother have until then to vacate my house. You can take your things. Your mother can take hers. Leave my keys on the kitchen counter. Her expression hardened, the pleading replaced by her mother's fury. You're ticking me out. Your wife over a bedroom. I'm securing my property from a hostile takeover you co-signed. I said you have until 3. I started the car and drove away. I didn't look back. I just drove. I am now sitting in a soulless hotel room staring at the wall. My phone has been a constant buzz of texts and calls from her, her father, her aunt. I am, in their words, a cruel, heartless monster. Maybe I am, but I also feel a strange, cold clarity I haven't felt in years. I gave her an out. I gave her a same-way solution. She chose her mother. And now I'm choosing me. Update 1. The dust is starting to settle, and it's uglier than I imagined. Thank you for the messages of support. It's grounding to know I'm not losing my mind. I returned to my house at 3:15 p.m. that Thursday. The locksmith's van was parked outside. Brenda's and Shirley's cars were gone. A mountain of Shirley's junk, the floral armchair, boxes of knickknacks, lamps, was piled haphazardly on the curb. It looked like they'd left in a hurry. Gary, the locksmith, was a pro. An hour later, I had a new set of keys in my hand. They felt solid, definitive. I walked through the quiet house. It felt violated. They'd taken all of Brenda's things, but Shirley had left a calling card. She'd gone into my office. On the desk, I keep my grandfather's watch, an old Omega Seamaster from the 60s. It's not a museum piece, but its sentimental value is immense. The display case was there, but it was empty. In its place sat one of her hideous porcelain dolls, a little sailor with a chipped smile, a trophy, a final petty act of conquest. The theft of the watch was a calculated move meant to wound me in a way moving furniture couldn't. I took a photo of the doll in the empty case. I documented everything. Then I sent a single text to Brenda. Your mother has stolen my grandfather's watch. I have already filed a police report for theft. The case number is 86753 309. They informed me that knowingly possessing stolen property is a crime. She has 24 hours to return it before the police follow up. This was a slight exaggeration. I had only filed the report online. I hadn't spoken to an officer yet, but the official number was real. The threat of police involvement was the tool. The blowback was immediate. Shirley, using Brenda's phone, sent me a novel-length text tirade. I was a liar. I was ungrateful. The watch was a piece of junk she'd taken as a down payment for the pain and suffering I'd caused. She was building her own absurd legal case via text message. Brenda called me sobbing. They're going to arrest my mother. Jonathan, you can't do this. It's a watch. It stopped being about the watch the second she put her hands on it. It's about a pattern of theft and disrespect you have enabled for years. 24 hours. Brenda, have her leave it with the concierge at my hotel. No contact. I got a call from her. Father, Larry. Next. He's always been steamrolled by Shirley, a perpetually bewildered man. Son, you have to be reasonable. You've kicked them out. Isn't that enough? You're tearing the family apart. Larry, your wife tried to annex my home. Your daughter helped her. They tore the family apart. I'm just cleaning up the rubble. Tell Shirley to return the watch. The deadline came and went. Nothing. So, the next afternoon, I walked into the local precinct with my phone, showing the text messages from Shirley, admitting she had it. The desk sergeant read them, raised an eyebrow, and took my statement seriously. He said the texts established clear intent, and that a detective would be assigned the case, though he cautioned me that these things can move slowly. That was enough. 2 hours later, a frantic Brenda called. A detective had left a voicemail for her, referencing the case number and asking for a statement from Shirley. The official gears were turning, even if slowly. Are you happy now? She shrieked. You've sicked the police on a sick old woman. She's a thief, Brenda. That's not a medical condition. Her voice dropped, filled with a chilling venom I'd never heard before. You will regret this, Jonathan. I swear to you, I am going to make you regret every second of this. I believe her. I regret that the woman I married is a stranger to me. I regret I didn't have the courage to draw this line years ago. Last night, I took Shirley's ugly armchair from the curb and personally drove it to a donation center. It's a small act, but it felt like an exorcism. I'm taking my house back, one piece at a time. Update 2. The war has moved to a new front: public opinion and financial warfare. First, the watch reappeared. It was left in a jiffy bag with the front desk at my office. No note. The fear of a larceny charge was enough. I'm having it serviced, just in case Shirley's spite is radioactive. The day after my last post, Brenda and Shirley showed up. I saw them on my Ring camera ringing the bell, then banging on the door. I sat in my office and watched them on my phone. Shirley was yelling, her words a muffled stream of invective. Brenda was just crying. After 20 minutes, they gave up. A few days later, my brother sent me a link. Brenda had started a GoFundMe. The title was, Help Me and My Mom Escape Abuse. The photo was a carefully staged selfie of them in their hotel room, looking worn and tearful. The description was a work of pure fiction. It claimed I was a volatile alcoholic. I have a glass of wine with dinner, maybe twice a week. Who, in a drunken rage, had thrown them out into the night with nothing. She'd set a goal of $10,000 for a safety deposit and legal fees to fight for my rights. She'd already raised nearly $800 from her extended family and friends who didn't know any better. My first instinct was to post a comment to fight back with the truth. But my lawyer Stephen is worth every penny. Don't, he said. Don't engage. Just document. We'll use their lies against them at the right time. So I did. I saved screenshots. Then I had my lawyer draft a formal email to Brenda ceasing me. It stated that she had one opportunity to retrieve her personal property on Saturday, between 10 sets a.m. and 2 calls p.m. It specified that her mother was not permitted on the premises, and that any deviation would be considered trespassing. It also stated that the entire process would be filmed. This, of course, led to another flurry of texts about how cruel I was, but she agreed. On Saturday, She arrived with her father. Larry looked ashamed, unable to meet my eyes. I had systematically gone through the house and packed everything that was unequivocally hers into boxes and stacked them in the garage. I stood at a distance, my phone recording. She was all business until the end. Where's the Vitamix and the new OLED TV? Brenda, the blender was a housewarming gift from my sister to me when I first bought this place. I have the receipt for the TV dated 1 year before I met you. They are not marital property, but I used them. We're married. It's our stuff. No, I said as gently as I could. It's my stuff that you had use of while we were married. That courtesy has now been rescinded. My lawyer has the paperwork. The divorce is being filed Monday on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. And, by the way, that GoFundMe you started, any funds you collect are considered marital assets you are actively hiding. Intentionally deceiving the court is a very, very bad look. Brenda went white. Larry stepped forward, wringing his hands. Son, a divorce. Isn't that a bit extreme? Extreme was conspiring to steal my home, Larry. This is the logical consequence. They left. By that evening, the GoFundMe page was gone. The latest trick was the most insidious. Shirley somehow got my mother's phone number from an old Christmas card list Brenda had kept. She called her weeping, telling a heartbreaking story of a daughter abused by a cruel man. My mother, a woman who has tolerated zero nonsense in her 65 years, listened patiently. When Shirley was done, my mom said, "Surely I know my son, and I know he owns his house. If you thought you could just take it from him, then you're not just a bad house guest. You're a fool. You have my son's wife with you. Perhaps you should focus on your role in breaking up her marriage instead of trying to poison this well. Do not call me again." Then she hung up. Every move they make, every lie they tell, just adds another page to the file my lawyer is building. They think they're fighting me. They're really just fighting themselves, and they're losing badly. Final update. It's done. The decree is absolute. The house is silent, and it's all mine. The last 6 months have been a masterclass in legal maneuvering and emotional endurance. The divorce proceedings were exactly as ugly as you'd expect. There, big play was for the house. Brenda's lawyer tried to argue for a significant portion of its equity, citing her contributions as a homemaker. They were banking on a judge seeing a poor, discarded wife. They didn't count on my meticulous record-keeping. My lawyer, Stephen, laid it all out in mediation. The premarital deed and mortgage statements proving sole ownership. The formal offer I had made to rent an apartment for Shirley, proving I had attempted a reasonable solution. The photos from the day of the takeover, the police report for the stolen watch, and Shirley's own incriminating text messages, the screenshots of the fraudulent GoFundMe, which demonstrated bad faith and an attempt to hide assets. Faced with this mountain of evidence, their lawyer's posture changed. The fight for the house was a non-starter. The battle shifted to marital assets. I knew this was coming. We had a car we'd bought together and about $40,000 in a joint savings account. My lawyer advised a strategic move. We can spend a year fighting over every pot and pan, or we can cut the cancer out now. Offer her a settlement to walk away. So we did. We calculated her half of the actual marital assets, the savings, and the car's equity, which came to roughly $28,000. My lawyer drafted an offer, a one-time lump sum payment of $30,000. In exchange, she would waive any and all future claims on any other property and agree to an uncontested divorce. She fought it at first. Shirley, I'm sure, was whispering in her ear about getting 6 figures. But her own lawyer, likely realizing he couldn't win with their mountain of bad faith actions, must have told her it was the best deal she would ever see. After a week of their bitter silence, she accepted. The final meeting to sign the papers was in a sterile conference room. Brenda looked thin and worn down. The fire in her eyes was gone, replaced by a dull, permanent resentment. Shirley was there, of course, lurking behind her like a malevolent shadow. After signing, Brenda cornered me in the hallway. $30,000, she hissed. That's all I'm worth after. 4 years. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt a profound sadness. This was never about what you were worth, Brenda. It was about what you were willing to throw away. You had a life. You had a home. You chose her. This is the price of that choice. Shirley started to step forward, her mouth opening to spew her usual venom. But Brenda shot her a look of pure exhaustion. Stop, Mom. Just it's done. It was the first time I'd ever seen a flicker of rebellion in her, and it was 6 months too late. The consequences have been the natural result of their own actions. I didn't have to lift a finger. They burned through the settlement money in 2. Months on deposits for a new apartment and paying off debts surely had a cred. They live in a cramped 2-bedroom unit in a town an hour away. A mutual acquaintance told my brother that Larry, Brenda's dad, visits rarely, and that the fighting between mother and daughter is constant. Shirley got what she wanted. Her daughter all to herself, and now they are trapped in a small space with Ayo. Brenda working a second job on weekends to pay the bills her mother runs up. As for me, the silence in my house was deafening at first. I methodically purged every trace of them. I painted the bedroom a calm, quiet grey. I sold the bed we shared and bought a new one. I took my grandfather's watch, my artifact of independence, and it now sits on my nightstand. It's a daily tangible reminder of what I fought for, my history, my peace, and my home. I'm slowly stitching my life back together. I've reconnected with old friends. I've started hiking again. I sit in my dad's old leather chair in my quiet living room, and I feel stillness, a profound, hard-won peace. I don't wish them ill exactly. I just wish them elsewhere. They are the architects of their own misery, and I am the sole, undisputed owner of my quiet, orderly life. And for that, I am deeply, profoundly grateful.